Today, we're going to be talking about what is the best strategy for managing a large sales team. What is the best strategy for managing a large team? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how to do exactly that and share with you what I've done over my career to overcome the large team obstacles. Over the last 2.5 decades, I've managed and led hundreds of sales teams. I've seen a small floor grow from 10 sales reps up to 300 in less than a few years. So I've experienced the challenges that come with managing large teams. It is possible, however, so I want to break down for you first by understanding why teams scale and how to approach it. Finally, I'll show you exactly how to manage those teams so it doesn't become a burden for you and your organization. If you're ready, let's go. So why does a sales team grow and scale at a large level? Well, usually it's either growth or opportunity, which are awesome things. Those are great things, right? And if you're experiencing either one of those, that's a good situation to be in. But it's also a challenging one. And why is it a challenge? Many times because if you do not have the systems in place to govern the growth, then you could see your business falter or even lose opportunities. I remember an organization I worked with back in the late 90s. I was a door-to-door sales rep, and they had grown tremendously. They were one of the top door-to-door sales organizations out there that would employ young, 21, 22, 23-year-old sales reps. They would go out, they'd knock door to door, and they were selling pest control door to door. This company grew so fast and so quickly that it could not keep up with the growth. It didn't have the systems to govern the growth. And eventually this company ended up selling off the parts of the business and start something completely different. I remember thinking it was a giant in the industry, only to find out because it scaled so fast that it actually faltered and went away and sold off its parts and became non-existent going forward. So let's jump into the specifics about how to manage a large sales team. As the quote goes, if you failed to plan, you're planning to fail. Without a plan in place, we really have nothing to go on. And that goes with growing your business as well or scaling a sales team. You have to have a plan in place for that growth, because if you don't, you're going to get caught off guard and you're going to put something in place that maybe isn't sustainable that will knock you off course at one point or another in your business cycle. And let's be honest, that plan has to be in place because nobody goes into business or nobody starts a sales team without planning that it's going to grow and scale. And for most of us, we're never staying stagnant, right? We're either going up or we're going down. Rarely just stay along this line forever. So what does that plan look like and how will it operate? Well, that brings me to my next point. You have to create systems that foster the ability to duplicate the process over and over and over. So what are those systems? What are those processes that allow you to scale? Well, in the sales world, it's scripts. If you have your sales pitch scripted to where the average person can get on there and read it almost word for word and see some success, that's a great start. Objection sheets, those are important because common objections in sales, we all have those. If you have a sheet in front of you that allows you to have answers to the most commonly said objections, that also is going to help. It's going to standardize your entire process and it's going to allow new people to come in and duplicate what's been done before them. Having bullet points of the best parts of your product and service are also super important. And obviously the basic stuff like a payroll system, a hiring process, you're probably getting the point, right? Having these things in place that allow you to scale are super important. I remember it was probably about 4.5 years ago, a friend of mine, we'd been playing around with this idea. We were working with another friend of ours who was offering internet service to rural America. Now at the time, it was kind of a forethought, right? But there was definitely people in rural America that needed service, and it was provided through a router that had either some of the large providers, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, AT&T. It had their SIM cards in a router that allowed to pull a signal off the tower and convert it to high-speed internet in the home. Now we started to see it take off, and my friend became really good at putting a system in place. He knew that if he spent this much money on ads, that he was going to get this many calls, right? So he started spending on money ads, and he realized that he could close enough to make it work. He added on a new salesperson and a new salesperson. And eventually it really started to take off right before COVID. And what happened during COVID? Everybody started entertaining from home, schooling from home, working from home. So those people in rural America, they needed internet. So that business started to explode, but we had systems in place that governed that expansion. We had scripts, we had budgets for leads, we had metrics in place, we had a payroll service in place, a hiring process in place. We had everything in place that allowed to scale to go from maybe one sales rep in about 3 to 4 months to go to about 15 to 20 sales reps. And from sales from maybe 5 or 10 a week up to 2 or 3, 400 a week. And so it was the systems that allowed it to go. The other thing that's important is you've got to be able to grow leaders. If your organization is growing, if it's scaling and you want to manage a large team, you've got to foster growth with leaders. If you have one leader doing everything, that leader is going to get burnt out and it's not going to be scalable. But if you can find potential leaders within your organization and you can promote them and allow them opportunities to grow and scale, that's going to allow you to once again duplicate the business. If you have a system in place that this team, right, this team leader, this manager, this team was able to do, and you put another management in place with all the right systems, it can do the exact same thing. So scaling becomes really easy. Managing large teams become real easy if you have the systems in place and you're fostering growth of leaders. And especially in sales, when you're looking to grow a sales team, you've got to find that next leader that can be your sales team leader. You know, one thing we did in one of our organizations is when we had a team, right, it consisted of a team and it consisted of appointment setters and then directors or closers. But typically an average team leader can manage maybe 7 or 8 people on that team at the most. What we then decided to do is like, we need other team leaders because we're growing so fast. We put assistant team leaders in place. So all of a sudden an assistant team leader could manage 3 or 4 guys. And all of a sudden you had one team that had 3 or 4 or 5 assistant team leaders. Instead of a 7 or 8 man team, that could be a 15-man team. But it also allowed the opportunity for when the assistant team leader and his group of 3 or 4 really performed, they could break off and become another team and scale that business. So putting things in place that provide a career path and opportunities for growth is vitally important to managing a large team. So we saw this play out perfectly in a business that we started maybe about 23, 24 years ago. We started with one team and it was about, 5, 6, 7 people. We started to see it grow and we were in a small little building. We eventually got into a building that had kind of a downstairs area that we could fit maybe 15 people. And all of a sudden that grew too much. We had 2 teams. And so we rented the space upstairs, put in some cubicles, and all of a sudden we had 3 or 4 teams within that building there. And we started to see it grow. And the challenging thing was, even at the time, my partners and I, we were still on the phone getting sales. But there was other things that needed to happen. People would come to us and ask questions, but we might be trying to close a deal. Eventually we had to step away from that role, empower the people that were doing it so we could take on a much larger role in order to allow the business to scale. Eventually we got so big in that space that we moved into a much larger building that had the opportunity to rent other spaces, and we grew from maybe a 10-person sales team up to about a 200, maybe 150, 200 salesperson sales team, all in one building. And we did it by scaling exactly how I mentioned, with leadership and with systems in place to govern that growth. And what we started to do is, once we had team leaders that were doing really well, they became a division manager who managed maybe 4, 5, 6 teams underneath them. And so we had 2 or 3 division managers that oversaw a division, and it gave everybody an opportunity to grow and expand, because if a team leader proved he could continually kick off leaders from his team, that became the obvious choice for the next division manager. And it provided a path for growth for these individuals. So broken down in its simple sense, if you want to manage a large team successfully, get the systems in place, foster growth of leadership, and reward those that are helping build it. And those are some things that I've seen in my business that have worked really well for me. I'd love to hear your feedback on what you've done to manage large teams. And as always, just for stopping by my page, watching the videos, I've got a free gift for you. It's aaronssalestraining.com. Click on the link below. It's 10 modules of my best sales training, persuasion and influence. We use it to train all of our teams. Click on the link below, utilize it. Once again, thanks for stopping by. Have an amazing day.